he comes. So run, rabbit, run, run, rabbit, run. They keep telling us girls should just wanna have fun, just wanna have fun, just wanna have fun. So go do what you're told now. Put down your guns, just put down your guns. They said put down your guns, 'cause nothing new ain't gonna happen here under the sun. Not under the sun, not under the sun. But I don't move, none of us do. We block our ears with wax, lash ourselves through the mast and keep on. Hallelujah, we keep on. There's a man with a plan and a mic in his hands. Hail to the chief, hail to the chief. There's a boy whose ribs are poking through his skin, but that bread isn't his, so string up the thief. Do it in public so they know who's running the show. Get it all on TV, get it all on the live feed. There's someone in the way, and that someone is me. That someone is you, and these someones are free. So I don't move, none of us do. We block our ears with wax, lash ourselves through the mast and keep on. Hallelujah, we keep on. Beaten but not broken, on your feet, men and women, and everybody else too. Yeah, with your head held high, it's do or die. Try and raise your fist to the sky. Don't let this all be for nothing, like the man said. We got to all come together now. We hold these truths to be self-evident. We won't let the bastards keep us down. Oh, we keep on. Hallelujah, we keep on. And on, and on, and on.
Hey, everybody, welcome back. Excuse me. If it's a few minutes past 11, I'm going to 12 o'clock, rather. I'm going to take these off. It ruins my hair. That was Lady Tori Sparks, our queen of poesia and flamenco rock fusion. And in fact, that is just off her new record, just released last week, called Cabinet of Curiosities Volume 1. She just premiered that a few days ago at the Teatro de Sarria. Shout out, Tori. But shout out to what's going on in here, because we are not alone. In fact, I am not alone here at the Club with Lucas here in RCE 106.9 FM. Because I'm being joined not by none other than director Linda Freund, who is the, well, I'm going to call you an eminent director here for Barcelona anyway, because of what you're presenting. And the material that we're talking about today is going to be a major step down from the last hour. Shout out to the Comedy Clubhouse kids and CK and James for being here. Linda, thank you so much for being here, because we've been talking for a hot minute to try and make this happen since last summer, I think.
Absolutely.
And it's finally happening. Thank you for being here. You're also going to be introducing this documentary. It's called The Window on Death Row. It is for your consideration and going out to film festivals, and there's been many at the same time right now. It's also going to be playing next Tuesday evening at the BCN studio here in Poblesex, and documenting the absolute dumpster fire that is parts of many justice systems, but certainly justice system from the country from which we were born and hail from. Thankfully, we have escaped. We have learned, as Robbie Williams did, the versions of escapology. How long have you been out of the country?
Going on 8 years.
All right. Okay. You see, power to the people. Now, we are waiting, hopefully, to be joined by the subject as well, Mr. Joaquin Martinez of this famed documentary. Now, we hope to get him in here as soon as possible. Remember, folks, you can get all the goodness here at rce.cat, as well as 106.9 FM all over the beautiful state of Catalonia. rce.cat is for everybody around the world. And if you ever hear songs fade out, if you're catching us on YouTube, you can catch us as well with your eye holes at RCE 106.9 FM. If you ever hear the music fade out from that, it's only for international copyrights and stuff. You can also follow me at Instagram at The Club with Lucas. And I'm talking a lot. Yes, pitter patter, let's get at her. I'm going to throw a song up while we wait to try and hook up with Mr. Martinez. I'm going to put a song on from an album that just released yesterday. Now, many, many moons ago, this woman was called the Queen of Contemporary Christian Rock Music. And is someone I truly, dearly, dearly, dearly love. And for the first time in 13 years, she released a lot of women from years ago are releasing new records now, and it's making me happy. Hi, Madonna, shout out. But this is Amy Grant. And Amy Grant just released her first new music in 13 years, and it's a beautiful song that actually goes very much in line with what we're going to be speaking about today and the capitulation to many powers that be in the justice systems. Not only just in the United States, this is happening everywhere. Hello. But this is a new single by Amy Grant and a Nashville artist that she's doing a duet with on this called Ruby Amanfu. And it's How Do We Get There From Here. Remember, you can catch the jams live on 106.9 FM and rce.cat. This is Amy Grant. We'll be right back in 4 minutes. yeah. That was Amy Grant and Lady Ruby from Amy Grant's new record, The Me That Remains. And you know what? That might be a perfect title and entry into. We're going to be talking about something that is very dear to my heart, as I am not a Latino from the United States, especially in the world that we live in. This is a documentary feature that is called The Window on Death Row, and it has had an Oscar campaign. It's been on multiple film festivals. It's going through the circuit right now. And it is also going to be screening at the BCN studio this Tuesday in Poblasec at 8 p.m., I believe.
That's
well.
correct.
And Director Linda Freund, thank you so much for being here. Seriously, because we have been trying to make this happen for a few months now. And the fact that it's come to fruition, the world has just opened up to us like a beautiful flower. And I'm wondering, is Mr. Joaquin Martinez, are you there? JJ Martinez, are you there, sir? Let's see if we can squeeze him in here. No. Okay. Well, we're going to try to get Mr. Martinez. We've had a little bit of problems with the vMix links today, which is unfortunate. But this is a conceptual moment, and so we're going to conceive something incredible. Because when you are dealing with something like death row and the justice system in the United States of America, and any kind of country that has a perpetual death sentence in its realm, which is something we do not have here in Spain. I'm sure it used to be, but not anymore. Thank you, Constitution of December 1978. But it's a harrowing thing. And let's be real, a plurality of people that are often put to death, they're put to death in a state that I was born in, Texas. It's fun. And Linda, thank you for being here. Let's dive in. How did you come about to getting into this realm and into this topic? Let me take this off for the time.
Yeah, just to give a bit of an overview about the documentary and the thrust. Yeah. It's on Joaquin Jose Martinez, who hopefully we'll be speaking to very soon. He's the first Spaniard to be exonerated from U.S. death row. So his case, very interesting in that 4 years on death row for a crime he didn't commit. And it, as a Spanish citizen and an American citizen, it really pitted the two countries against each other. Because here in Europe, people have a different perspective, perhaps a more enlightening perspective. In fact, a condition of joining the EU is you must ban the death penalty. There's only one region in Europe proper where they actually still actively practice the death penalty. Can you guess?
Is it Turkey?
Belarus. But otherwise, United States and Iran, China.
Korea.
Yes,
North Korea.
yes. So interesting company to be in for sure. So coming across this story and this topic was a powerful one and a powerful journey for me. I actually had, journalists, we apply for whatever grants that stick, and we sometimes throw out outlandish ideas. And so I applied for this grant that was all about covering recipients of chaplain care. Okay, and I threw out this story. I said, I want to do a story on someone who was wrongfully convicted on death row and thanks to his or her chaplain, sustained any sort of hope in the darkest and most brutal of scenarios. Then I got the grant and I was like, oh crap, I actually have to find this person. Does this person actually exist? And I spent about a year looking because, look, there have been about 200 people exonerated from death row in the past 50 years. That's pretty significant. Okay. But among those, very few are ready to share their story. They're suffering severe PTSD. As you can imagine, and Joaquin will probably speak about that once we get him on, it's not just the execution itself, it's everything that leads up to that. It's the torture you encounter. I mean, Joaquin spoke about guards when he came in, they measured his head to determine if the helmet would fit when he would be executed in the electric chair. They put out white clothes and told him, okay, your execution is happening right now, even though he had still years of process and retrials to go through. So there's a lot of psychological warfare happening. But I will say I did finally find Joaquin. I did finally find him. And the curious thing about it is I had been searching throughout the U.S. He was in my backyard this whole time. In Valencia, Spain. So there's something very powerful about that, almost cosmic. And the documentary focuses on a lot of kind of Catholic faith themes. I'm not Catholic. I was raised Buddhist. I have a Jewish background. But at that moment, I had my hands in the air. I was looking up at the sky. I said, okay, I guess we're doing this. This is the journey. This is the mission.
And what a mission. Well, now, that's a mission that in theory would have a permanent condition because he was again, to be excommunicated from this life, which is very hard for most Europeans, the hundreds of millions of us here, to fathom. Because when we look at a country like the United States of America, it's supposed to be a beacon of, a shining on the hill and whatever the hell. And we know the truth, especially when you come from certain backgrounds or if you're a woman. So let's keep it real. So what moved you originally to Spain in the first place?
My husband and I joked about this with our friends in the United States. It was actually the cheapest one-way flight internationally outside of the US during a certain political time. But meanwhile, I won't expand on that because as a journalist, I will keep some level of balance.
Amen. Well should.
But absolutely, just looking for a different way of life. We have a young son, so raising our son here in an environment that focuses much more on principles of inclusivity, for sure. And you speak about, goodness, some of the conditions in the United States, and there's been an escalation so much politically of so many severe and very pertinent issues, and death row executions is absolutely one of them. I mean, there's been nearly 50 people executed last year alone, which is the highest number in like 15 years. And much of that is being pushed through President Trump, and his push to be tough on crime, his executive orders. Florida. So Texas, yes, but Florida especially.
Gotta be Georgia, even worse.
Even worse. And
Whoa.
it's an interesting scenario because in Florida itself, the governor there has the sole right to sign execution warrants. It's one of 2 states. So there's been executions every few weeks.
Might I ask what is the other state that has that?
It's Pennsylvania, but they haven't executed someone since the 90s. So. And
we have Governor Shapiro there, thank God. Okay. I'm shocked right now because I thought well into now that it was Texas and China that did the most, and so now Florida. Well, need we think of a Florida man like Governor DeSantis? But was there a moment when you realized this was also a moral urgency that you were dealing with?
Yeah.
I mean, he is a Spanish speaker, I'm just saying.
This is interesting because within the film, there was this period where he reunites with his chaplain. I spoke to you about how the chaplaincy connection was the kind of initial impulse for this. He reunites with his chaplain, who is the first, it's the first time they're reuniting in 20 years. 20 years since Joaquin was released. And he shares this moment, and the two start talking about how, they're both in some ways trauma survivors. They both have been in the trenches together under conditions that no one else could possibly understand in the world. Okay. Right. So there they are, and they're talking to each other and explaining that, when you're that close to death, you don't hesitate to share how you feel.
Yes.
You do not hesitate. So then the 2 men have this beautiful moment, 2 grown men, where they're saying, I love you to each other. And I have to say, me and the crew, there was not a dry eye in there. And just that love and that power that was really forged under that trauma, that's when I realized there was something morally urgent and different, not just with respect to this nuance and angle of redemption when covering the death penalty, but also looking at the wider way we approach and tell stories about crime. And so I felt really charged within the editing process to steer away from that true crime formula, the one that, we're addicted. I'm addicted.
Okay,
I watch it. I gotta confess. But it's also kind of one of those things that's like junk food, right? Where it is doing something to our culture that I feel like we haven't quite yet placed. We haven't quite personified, where it's turning viewers into the judge and jury, and then the prisoners and even exonerees into an object or into an it. And so we're not humanizing. We're not questioning the way that this is changing our perspective about innocence, about guilt. And what I wanted to do was say, look, I know we love carnage. I know we love stories about gossip, but I think we want stories of redemption more. And that was really speared by that true and just pure love that I witnessed between Brother Dale, the chaplain, and Joaquin.
And it's always, as a man who does a lot of business counseling for men,
yeah,
the emotion, the lack of availability of emotions and expression is a very hard thing to overcome and get in a vortex. I wonder, when you were dealing with this very touchy material, did you worry about opening up wounds for him?
It's a great question. And absolutely, I did worry, but I tried really hard to create the ethical condition for authenticity and for comfort. I have been a reporter in conflict zones. I've been covering stories of trauma and really extreme circumstances for individuals for the past 20 years. In India, across East Africa, across greater parts of Asia. And so I have, over the time, really developed this principle for myself that if I'm going to do a longer form project, I'll only speak to people and really center them if they feel ready to tell their story from the position of empowerment, not victimhood. So one of the things I show in the film very transparently is I open with a question that I asked for Joaquin, and I ask for anyone who I feature in a documentary or a story. I say to him, right after the clapperboard, scene one, take one, I say to him, why are you doing this? Just to make sure it's okay for you.
Why?
And he explains his why. It's a very powerful why.
I believe we might even have Mr. Joaquin.
Hey, how are you? I'm
Hey,
so
Senor JJ, you're here.
sorry.
Hey.
I'm so sorry.
No,
I've been
don't be
trying to
sorry.
connect. I've been
Let's be
trying to connect all
grateful.
morning. I'm
Yes,
so
that's the
sorry,
beauty
guys.
of the world in which we live in. But here, Hefe, you are here. Welcome to the Club with Lucas on RCU 106.9 FM out
Thank you
here in Barcelona.
so much.
No, very blessed to have you on here. I mean, Barcelona, we're like the older, bigger aunt of Valencia. So here we are.
You're
And
awesome. I love you guys. I'm
much
so
love to
sorry. So
you.
sorry.
No, not at all. We're back. We still have 35 minutes to kill, so let's kill them.
Great.
The
Great.
power
Let's
of
do it.
the power of Christ compels. So, sorry, maybe I shouldn't repeat Exorcist lines right now. But you were saying that one of the nitty gritties that when you're after you start the directorship, that it's about getting, well, I said nitty gritty, into the nitty gritty and the truth of these peoples and the subjects that you're dealing with, but not from a victimhood standpoint, but from a victory standpoint. Lord, okay. JJ, Sir Joaquin,
Hey.
may I dive into the question? When you look back at that time, if it's okay to start
Yep.
to go back to that
Yep.
terrible time on Death Row, what feels more real for you today if you get into that vortex? Was it the fear, the injustice, isolation, los tres? Like what was
I,
the
I,
one?
I, I think it was the anger, the that sense of impotence to saying, this is this really happening to me? I mean, it's you feel betrayed in some ways or another. I mean, I grew up believing in the system. I grew up believing that no innocent person can go to jail, no innocent person go to forget about going to death row. So it's that betrayal, it's that sense of saying, wow, is this really happening? Can this really happen in our country, in our world? It's just that feeling, saying, wow, this is not happening. Unreal,
Were you, may I ask if you were a believer in a higher power before that?
Yeah, I believed in God. Let me be honest with you. I lost my faith the minute I arrived on death row. I really did. I didn't know what was happening. I said to myself, "Wow, I mean, this can't be happening." The only thought that came to my mind was, that maybe I had done something wrong in my life, and I was being punished for it.
Yes, sir.
But I kept looking back. I kept trying to find a reason why I ended up on death row. I'm talking now about on a religious level.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really a truth finding process from the very 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 beginning. I didn't understand anything that was happening. I lost my faith that same day. I said, why is this happening, God? Why me? Why,
Mm-hmm.
what is this about?
I do
Little by
know.
little, yeah, faith did come back, but that, let me be honest with you, the first day I arrived on death row, I lost all faith.
Joaquin, I'd love if
Mm.
you could share more about that first day and some of your
Yeah.
experiences.
Porfa, yes.
Yeah, that first day, let me be honest with you. The first day I arrived at death row was very difficult because the only thought that came to my mind was, wow, they sentenced me to death for something I didn't do. They're going to execute me for something I didn't do. I couldn't do anything else but cry when I got into my
Mm.
cell. And I started to hear the voices of other death row inmates that I had, believe me when I say this, that I had read about, that I had seen on TV. that I used to call monsters,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden these fellas, these guys, they were reaching out and saying, hey Joe, you're Joaquin, you're the Spanish guy, and I would say, yeah, I say, you need something to read, you need something to write. Can we send you some material, so you can write notes or thoughts? And I was like, wow, why are these people reaching out to me? I mean, I was so for the death penalty,
Mm.
and let me be clear on that. I truly believe that the death penalty was the solution, to the crime in society. And all of a sudden, overnight, here I am, you know, found myself with all these people surrounded, and they were reaching out to me, and
Yes, sir.
really at a moment where you have no one else to reach out to, where you've lost your faith, you don't have God in your life, you can't reach out to your family, your friends, or nobody else. The only people there were the death row inmates, and they were there all along, the whole time I was there on death row.
Are they? Here's a biting question, but are any of them with us anymore?
No, um, I have one friend that was able to survive from the pod. We were 13 on our cell block,
Mm-hmm.
but all of them have passed away. They've been executed or passed away. It's been, it's a heavy cross that I have to carry with me, to know that,
Does it give you a sense
that
of gratitude at any
yeah,
time sometimes?
yeah, it does, it does, it makes you say, wow, I'm very fortunate to have had the support that I received. At the same time, it makes you think about others and makes you think about, wow, these people would have received the same support, just a tenth, a third of the support I received, they may have been freed as well. It's very difficult. Let me be clear with you,
Yes,
and so
sir.
that you understand why I am like this today. And why um, it's very difficult on me, because 2 days ago I had surgery.
Oh,
And I was sitting on the hospital, my first surgery. I've never been in the hospital. Here I am laying down on the bed. I'm looking up, and I feel like I'm on a stretched bed, and I'm thinking about the lethal injection. I'm thinking about the guys back on death row, and I'm saying, wow, this ain't right, something has to change. We can't go on with this. And
w-
I didn't feel like I was going to be executed or anything like that when I'm
mhm.
sitting when I'm
No.
laying down on the
Yes, sir.
hospital bed. But the thought did come to mind that, wow, we have to do more.
It's obviously you still suffer. Excuse me for interrupting, sir. With residual trauma,
Yeah, I am.
you
I,
have.
I do.
Do you have counselors that you depend on and people that you turn
No,
to for that?
no. I'm sorry. Basically, I've lost my family. My parents are not with me, but I do have my wife. I do have people I speak to. And recently, I did tell Linda. I said, Linda, I have a problem here. I feel I'm not doing enough. I have to do more. And especially after the surgery. I just said, like I said, it's like almost like I've always been dedicated to my work, to death penalty, anti-death penalty, and everything else. But recently with the surgery, it's made me even more aware of what's going on out there, and it makes me reach out, and makes me want to do more. Really,
Okay.
I know I've had I spoke to Linda about this yesterday. I said, Linda, we got to do more, because I really need to reach out. I really feel I'm not doing enough
I
at
feel,
times.
well, if I may, a lot of the men that wind up here, I mean, it's not like all of them are innocent like our gentlemen. Some of them have really done some
Yeah.
travesties, committed travesties. And at the same time, all of that to me always goes back to a root of a lack of emotional, mental, and spiritual health. And
Yeah.
I feel that is mostly our gentlemen, especially penis wearers, that do not deal with their emotional, mental, and spiritual health. You can see it on the faces of men everywhere. I see it every day. And as someone who actually works in business counseling, I don't like that coaching bullshit. When I'm 80, yeah, you can call me a coach, but I'm 47. It does concern me that the lack of emotional, mental, and spiritual awareness of the masculine form, or divine masculine, if you want to refer to it, is scary. And so I wonder, as someone who has gone through that, and I am the child of a pastor as well. My parents, both mom and dad,
Wow.
were pastors and business people. You know the mistakes. They weren't Joan Osteen big, but they were ordained under the Osteens. And there's a line between, I feel, when we're dealing with systems like justice or emotional mental health, that why do you feel, sir, that it's so much more difficult for men to encroach upon that reality and accept it than for sometimes maybe our sisters?
Let me be honest with you. Before death row, I wasn't the person I am today.
Yes, sir.
I have no problem with showing my emotions. I really I cry throughout very little and spontaneous things that I see on TV or things that I see.
Before death
Let me
row,
be,
tambe.
well, I'm talking about now because before
Okay.
death row, I was a different person, completely different.
Okay.
But I had a lot of time to think about things. One of the things I thought about was the conversations I would have with my father, who's not with us anymore, and my dad used to tell me, "Hey, watch some news. Watch what's going on TV. Inform yourself. See what's going on in the world. Let me be honest with you. I have 7 children. My last 3 children are twins. The last 2 are twins. They're
I have a
11
twin.
years old. The next one is 12. I can't tell my kids to watch the news today. It breaks my heart. I can't do the things that my dad used to tell me to do. I turn on the TV and we see so many things every single day. Wars going on. There's so many war conflicts, over 84 war conflicts all over the world. I mean, I can't tell my children, hey kids, let's watch the news.
But can you
News.
tell them about it? Because I'm also an
Yeah.
educator and I'm a twin as well. And as
Oh, are you?
I
Wow.
am
Okay. So you
Latino
know.
power, man. And
So
as someone who educates older, students, mostly 17 and 29-year-olds,
Yeah.
I think they need to see that. I'm concerned that they live in a false reality of TikTok, Instagram
Exactly.
Reels. And that's cute if you think you're Bella Hadid, who was actually sold by her father into this, according to the Epstein files. But
Yeah.
I think our children need to be seeing this reality to learn a little
Yeah.
bit of gratitude. Madam, please step in.
Oh, I just want
I
to
miss your
say
voice.
that in my mind, one of the very powerful moments in the documentary
Yes, ma'am.
is where Joaquin is speaking to his children about, you spoke to them about what you went through, and they offered their insights and thoughts. And yeah, at one point, I believe your youngest made this realization or connection. He said, wait, if you hadn't come off of death row, you wouldn't have been with mom and I wouldn't be alive today.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And you took a moment. Yeah, I know. And then he grabs Joaquin's hand and his mom's hand and he says, I love you. Again, one of
Yeah,
those moments, that insight of a child, and the fact that you've brought your children into that space, you've explained to them the importance and the duty of educating about death row. You are doing a lot, Joaquin, in my mind, as the observer, to really bring your kids into that period of advocacy. And another thing I want to say is, Brother Dale says to both Joaquin and just to the general public this quote that really lands, and I think about it with respect to healing, whether you're a man, a woman, healing is taking place when you're using your trauma to try and relieve the suffering of others.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
We try. Let me be honest with you.
That's what I do.
I really have
Thank
to
you
be
for saying that.
clear with everyone here today.
Yes, sir.
Because I wasn't before death row. I wasn't the best father. I wasn't the best son, and I wasn't the best husband to my wife. I was arrogant. I was a horrible person. But let me be honest with you. I strive every single day to do my homework, which is what my father used to say to me. He used to say to me, son, if you want to be a good person in this world, in this life, you need to be a good father, a good son, and a good husband and friend to wife, and to your friends. And I go to sleep, at night. And before I go to sleep, I think about everything I've done throughout the day. And let me be clear with you. I always think it's my last day because after 5.5 years of being on death row, every day for me is an extra day. And I say to myself, have I done this? Have I done everything possible? Have I called my parents when they were still alive? Have I kissed my wife goodnight before going to sleep? Have I kissed my children before going to sleep? Um, and I do that
Have you
every
forgiven
single night.
yourself
For what
for the
I just
past
think of,
things and maybe how you treated your ex-wife or the older kids?
yeah, yeah, and I've also asked for forgiveness to my children,
Hmm.
to my ex-wife.
Yeah.
I wasn't a good person. I got caught up in a system, in an idea. I lost my sense, I lived in this perfect, and I'll be clear with you, I lived in this perfect American dream, thinking that what was the most important thing was to have your own business, your house on the beach, your sports car, and not anything else. And I lost myself. I'm not like that now. I
Hmm.
live each second like it's my last, and I let me be. I love my family. I love life.
Right.
It's raining right here, right now in Valencia and
Yeah, a little
outside.
here too, actually.
And I hear the rain. I hear it drops, and I was like, wow. It brings back memories of 5.5 years of on death row, not being able to
Yeah,
touch rain,
tiny,
because
yeah.
when it rains, you can't go outside and touch the rain.
Hmm.
You're like, wow. It brings you back to before death row. I mean, it's just like a mind blast. Mind blast, because before death row, when it used to rain with my suit, I'd be like, wow, don't get my hair wet, don't get my suit wet. I've changed. I've done a lot of growing up. I guess it changed a lot. Death row.
Hmm.
I'm sorry to say it like this, but death row really helped make me a better person.
Did they ever catch the actual culprits? The actual.
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, when it came down to when we finished the trial, the second
Hmm.
trial,
Yes, sir.
the attorney said to us, "Listen, Joe, our job is not to find who killed these people. Our job is to get you out, my attorneys.
Hmm.
And
For
but they
sure.
did bring to light two, three persons that had been at the victim's home with the victims on the Saturday night. Let me be clear with you. What happened was is they charged me, just for anyone that doesn't know my case. They charged me with killing a couple uh, on a Friday afternoon, and the victims were still alive on Saturday afternoon. So basically, when the victims were murdered, I was over 400 kilometers away. I wasn't even close to the place. But um, these three people had been inside the victim's home on Saturday evening, and the mother had. She was able to recognize them, and she filed a police report. What happened is that this police report wasn't brought up in the first trial. Basically, it was lost, and we found it in the second trial. Just little things like that made it all change.
Hmm.
And there was a big argument that took place at the home of the victims, and the mother was able to witness all this. One of the victims' mother, and she was able to witness this and see that something was going wrong. She mentioned it, she spoke about it, but once I was arrested, it was never brought up again. Basically, it was completely lost or put aside.
May I ask you another question?
Yeah,
And I don't want to jump into that bandwagon, but the fact that you are a brown-skinned Spanish speaker, did that have anything to do with anything?
yeah, I had a lot to do with
No,
it.
not in the. You're crazy. Hmm.
Hey, hey,
Hmm.
let me tell you something. If I wish I had my badge right now, my badge, my ID card that I had to carry. I was classified as white with a
Because
Martinez Perez name, and I was classified not Hispanic, white,
because
to
of
maintain that
from
balance
Europe.
that they speak about. You know,
Yeah.
can you imagine this? I mean, it's just amazing what they do. The things that they do to maintain that balance. To say no, we're not. We don't discriminate. We have no problems with Spanish people, with Black African American. No, no, no.
But was that because you had a
White,
Spanish, maybe you had a Spanish passport?
white, white.
Wow, that is because they wouldn't
They
do
didn't
that
even.
to a Mexicano. I don't
No,
think.
no. Oh no, he would. Hey, yeah, that
Okay.
would change.
Well, maybe this is. We talked about gratitude and things of that nature, forgiving yourself. Is forgiveness to that country? Is that part of the journey?
Oh,
That system?
well,
No. Okay, cool.
let me.
Falcon.
I love I love America. Let me
Really?
be clear.
You live in the United
I love
States.
America.
Okay.
I love America. The United States. I was not born there, but I was raised there. I had my children there. Okay, above Spain. It's not about I mean, Spain is Spain for me. I mean, Spain is what has to be free, what has to be here today. But there are good things in America, and that's why the only reason I continue fighting against the death penalty is that that it's not a perfect system, and that I was able to go through the system. I was able to go through this experience and say, wow, something's wrong here. You know, I I will continue fighting against the death penalty, not because of the country. I mean, one thing is to love America, and another thing is to know that they're trying to do it better. I mean, I don't think that today. Let me be honest with everyone today. I don't think that today they would have been able to take me to
Exonerate you.
trial and find me guilty like they did over 20 years ago. I don't think that could happen today. There are more guarantees. I think this has a lot to do with you, the media, with the support groups, with so many things going on, and all the pressure from Europe. I don't think they would have been able to send me to death row
Even in
today
this,
with all.
excuse me, even in this current
I'm sorry.
administration and ICE and everything, you don't think?
Well, what? I take that back.
I mean,
With that,
maybe up until
I
maybe
take that
until
back.
Biden, maybe. But I feel like in the
With
last
everything,
year and a
yeah,
half,
yes, yes.
especially as Spanish speakers and Latino, it just I feel like certainly even more than other criminals or African American, the Latino community, the Spanish speaking community is really under bombardment at the moment. And if there's something for both of our beautiful people here today, what responsibility to the audiences do you have, or do you feel after they watch the film? Is there something you would like for them to obtain and get that beyond the necessity for empathy? Is there something you want them to take from that as
Linda,
as the
that's yours.
star and the director?
I think that's on you, Linda.
I think one of the important things is just to have a conversation. We're not asking for immediate action because I think right now too there's this big feeling of paralysis that anything you do won't necessarily make a difference. But conversation. This story, it has a lot of joy, hope, redemption themes, but it's also very heavy. I mean, I've had a lot of very cynical, tough cookies in the journalism world come to me afterward and say, congratulations, you made me cry. But the fact is, it covers a lot of different angles and just merits a conversation to metabolize the information. So I tell people, you want to show the film in your community group, your church group, your school? Absolutely. Go for it. No cost. Email me. I will send you a link. The only thing I ask is that you have at least a dedicated period of time, could be 15 minutes, could be 5 hours, to converse about it, to really think about how it's impacted you, how it's changed your impression. Because I've also had numbers of people, and I've shown this around the world now, I've been very fortunate, numbers of people who are pro-capital punishment, who are very drawn to Joaquin's story because he went through this metamorphosis, this transformation of being a believer of tough on crime, which often in the U.S. is interchangeable with capital punishment. So he's had this metamorphosis. They're starting to feel it, but they also say to me, when I was watching this, you look at the title, I expected horror, but it was understated. You gave me an opportunity to kind of come to it, to think about it in a lighter, more human way. And you also exposed the nuances. And so that's worth conversing. The fact that, Joaquin, you say, I would have been dead today if I hadn't gone to death row. Does that mean you should have been there? Let's discuss that. right? Or the fact that you meet these men who you called monsters and you realize they're reaching out and providing you love and support at one of your darkest moments in life, right? That merits a conversation. Let's talk about these nuances, these complexities as a group.
Nuance and complexity, definitely. I wonder, sir, although this is it's definitely nuanced, but this moment on death row in its own light was the death of your former self
Yeah,
to be reborn into the
yeah,
man that the higher power needed you to be.
yeah. It was. I can't agree with you more with everything that Linda has said. It's almost like a rebirth. It was a moment of really reaching inside and saying, "Hey, I'm so used to living in this bubble, in this world of perfection. The system is perfect. The what the lawmakers would say is perfect. Everything works. And you don't question anything. You're inside this bubble. You don't question anything that they tell you. You believe everything they tell you. You don't believe that that innocent people can go to death row. That's impossible. And it's almost like it's for me. It was a rebirth, complete. Complete rechanging my whole life, my whole everything.
Dude, I'm really
To
surprised by
even go
that.
further with what Linda just finished saying. Let me be honest with everyone today. It's very difficult, very difficult to change the minds of people that have set their minds. When you reach a certain age. But let me be quite honest with you. I speak in schools. I've spoken this past year in over 200 schools, universities, students. Students, that's the best way to change the mentality, to change the future. I don't think you can change the mind of many people today that already have their ideas set,
Hmm.
but the students, they're being formed. They have so many things going on. The parents, they have social media, they have the schools, they have the teachers. They receive all this information and they're processing everything, And I've learned throughout the speaking events in many of the schools that it's the way to change the mentality. It's the way to look towards the future. This documentary that Linda has made is awesome because it's a tool for teachers to not just for anti-death penalty. It's human rights. It's something so simple as human rights. The right for a person to live and the right, for a person to have guarantees in life, and to be
Yes, sir.
able to be with his family and loved ones, whether it's on the outside world or in this inside world, whether you're guilty or not guilty, it makes no difference. It's the right to live.
So that's, I feel like you're defining what justice looks to you like now, the right to live and to speak
Yeah,
about that. Hmm.
yeah. It's one of for me, it's what's most important. I mean, life is I mean, I look back, and I think about all the guys that are left behind on death row. It breaks my heart.
Hmm.
It breaks my heart because you say to yourself, wow, these people, many of them 19, 20 years, and I've come across people that have really touched my heart. There's one case of a man, Frank Lee Smith, if I can, if I may, um, he, he's the one that changed my mentality. He's the one that made me uh, anti-death penalty because believe me when I say that, even on death row, I continue believing in death penalty. I didn't believe in the system, but I believe that death penalty in some way would relieve maybe or help the victims' families move on. And this person that I met was incredible because he had been on death row for over 19 years, uh, had lost a lot of sanity. He wasn't doing well mentally. And he would get up in the middle of the night, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, screaming. He would say, "Please get me out of here. I'm innocent." And he would scream, top of the lung. He would curse the guards, and we would all tell him, "Frank, please don't scream. They're going to come down. They're going to come down. They're going to come in. They're going to beat you, and they're going to beat us. Stop screaming, please." But he would continue to scream. And many times they would take him to the infirmary, and he would come back the next day, and everybody would be happy, and we were all, "Hey, Frank, good to have you back." And there was one time he didn't come back. I didn't see Frank Lee Smith again till I was getting ready to go back home when I had to go get my blood work done. when I was waiting for transport. And I saw this man, this big black African American, that friend of mine, on a gurney in a bed. And he wasn't the same person. He went through his own, metamorphosis. He was skinny, lost weight. He was shaking. He was visibly affected.
broken
And
him
he was
down.
dying. He was dying of cancer. I mean, the man was dying of cancer. I mean, I can't think of anything worse to be on death row, to be waiting for an execution, and to die of cancer completely alone. The worst part about all this is that he was charged with the murder and rape of a 9-year-old girl. So you can imagine the sympathy, the love, the compassion that that the guards, the doctors, the nurses had towards him. None, zero.
Yeah.
And here's a person, spends 19 years on death row completely alone with no support like I received, obviously. And all he wanted was to have DNA testing done. But there was a prosecutor out there that had the same mentality, the same way of thinking that I had, that would say, why should we waste our taxpayers' money on a monster that's killed a 9-year-old girl? What's sad about this whole story is that in the end, this man was innocent. And a year after he died of cancer on death row, completely alone, they did the DNA testing on his body. Frank Lee Smith, ladies and gentlemen, that's his name. And they discovered that he was innocent.
Frankly, thank you for telling that story, Joaquin. I mean, I have to wrap it up, unfortunately, because we have another show coming on right now, my brother. Thank you for streaming in. I do need to reiterate, you will actually be here in Barcelona for the 8 p.m. screening next Tuesday, and that'll be Tuesday the 12th. Here in Barcelona at the BCN studio in Carrer El Cano, number 26 at the BCN studio with director Linda Freud and star of the dog. I don't know, star, but yes,
absolutely.
The theme and star of
the heart and soul.
JJ Martinez Perez, like what? Sir, I would love for us to grab a coffee and a bite when you're here if we can.
I will see you. I will definitely take that up.
Thank you. Thank you so much for streaming, making that happen. Much love to you. Power to the people.
God bless.
That's right. And folks, we are going to make way for the beautiful people that are coming in right now. But remember, you can catch us 11 to 1, same bat time and channel every week here at RC 106.9 FM, serving up the truth and what's good for the people. Remember, folks, also, again, the documentary is called The Window on Death Row. It will be screening at 8 p.m. at the BCN studio here in Barcelona. Thank you, Joaquin. Thank you, Lady Linda, for being here. And we have to run out, but I'm going to throw you a little bit of jams. This is Patti Smith from 1988, motherfuckers. Patti Smith, people have the power because people have the power. Take it back, folks. All right? Thank you, sir. Thank you, everybody. Ciao, ciao. See you next week.